Hello everyone. As part of today's video, we will have a look to Q3 FY22 results made public by INFOSYS. As part of the process, we will learn what is consolidated financial data. We will also learn about constant currency. As part of the process, we will discuss digital revenue and why is it a debatable topic, wherein few organizations are reporting digital revenue but few are not. In the end, we will have a comparison between the results of TCS, INFOSYS, and WIPRO on certain parameters such as operating margin, CC revenue growth, net margin, net profit, and we will also talk about a factor which is causing operating margins for these companies to go negative. So please stay with me.
What we see here is the fact sheet made public by INFOSYS on its website. Now, this is the financial data that provides the financial health of the INFOSYS as an organization year over year and quarter over quarter. The question that arises is what is consolidated financial data, right? So financial data is the data that is giving indications about the financial health of the organization, but what is consolidated? What are we consolidating here as INFOSYS being the organization? So for that, I would like to draw your attention to infosys.com, and from here we will go to the subsidiaries list of INFOSYS. Now, when we have a look to this website, we see that there are multiple subsidiaries of INFOSYS. The first one being Edge Verve Systems Limited, INFOSYS BPM, INFOSYS Consulting Holding AG, INFOSYS Public Services Consulting Limited, so on and so forth. Now, when we say consolidated report, what we are mentioning over here, what INFOSYS is mentioning over here is it has consolidated all the numbers of all those subsidiaries and is being reported by the parent organization, which is INFOSYS. And that is what consolidated term over here means. I'll now draw your attention to the first number that is given here, 42.6% year over year CC digital growth. Now it also becomes important to understand what is CC. CC here is constant currency. Now let us understand this by means of an example. Let us assume there is an organization ABC, and ABC has declared results for year one. Let me hide year two for a moment. Now in year one, the USD revenue has been reported as 500,000. Let us assume that the net profit in US dollar is 10%. So it will come out to be 50,000. Let us assume that the main revenue generation of this organization is in the US region. However, company is also putting their results as far as the INR revenue or INR net profit is concerned. And hence company is going to apply the INR USD rate. Let us assume that one has to shell out 75.63 Indian rupee to buy $1 in the year one. Now that leads us to the INR revenue as 500,000 multiplied by 75.63. And since we are assuming that the profit is 10%, even the INR net profit is going to be the 10% of INR revenue, right? Pretty straightforward. Now let us take year two into consideration. Let us assume few more numbers here. Let us assume that the USD revenue increased by 20% to 600,000 in the year two. USD net profit we again assumed to be 10% of what the USD revenue is. So it turned out to be 60,000. Here we have changed the INR USD rate. So what we are saying is INR USD rate increased to 80. It is a 5.78% increase compared to 75.63, which means this year in year two, one has to shell out 80 rupees to get $1. Now, because of this fluctuation in the exchange rate, the INR revenue increased because this time the multiplier to the USD revenue is 80, not 75.63. And hence the INR net profit also is 10% of the INR revenue. the USD revenue is increased by 20%. But when the organization is making declaration, they can declare that the revenue is increased by 26.93%, which is close to 27%. In reality, the revenue is increased by 20% and not 27%. Now, to cater to this problem statement, the concept of constant currency came into picture. That constant currency concept means that we will keep the exchange rate constant as we have considered in the year one, which means here also in year two, we will take it as 75.63. Now, when we do so, we will observe that the INR revenue and INR net profit also turns out to be 20%, making it in line with what has been achieved as part of the USD revenue and USD net profit. Now, this is what constant currency is. This sets the ground leveled. When you apply constant currency, the numbers or the percentage increase in the revenue or net profit or net margin is constant, and that is what constant currency is. Now, with this, I'll take your attention back to the fact sheet of Infosys. I would like to draw your attention again to the first number, which is 42.6% year over year CC digital growth. Now, CC, we understood what is digital growth. And this is a very, very interesting and debatable topic. And I'll tell you why. Infosys and Wipro as organization, they do report digital revenue. However, there are certain organizations such as TCS and Accenture who have taken a stand for not reporting the digital revenue. And I would like to draw your attention to one of the articles. It's an interesting one published in Money Control. Now, back in 2019, starting the December quarter, Indian IT service major TCS stopped reporting digital as a share of revenue, stating that with digital becoming increasingly a part of the traditional service, it has become harder to differentiate between digital and the core. To give you an example, when Accenture originally reported the digital revenue, it turned out that the 70% of the total revenue share was because of the digital services, and hence it did not make much sense for Accenture to bifurcate digital from the core, because digital now became core for Accenture. Similar definition is being considered by TCS, but Infosys and Wipro till date, they do report digital revenue as a contribution or a share of the total revenue. But then when I'm saying that definition is not constant, let me put an example there as well. Now, Infosys and Wipro both reports digital revenue. Infosys considers revenue out of consulting wing as digital, but Wipro doesn't consider that, which means that definitions are not common when it comes to digital revenue, and that is where the topic becomes debatable. I will now take you to a more interesting slide. Now let us have a look to the leftmost column. These are the financial revenue highlights: CC revenue growth, operating margin, net profit, net margin, total employee base of the organization, and LTM attrition, which is last 12-month attrition within the organization. Now, when we talk about TCS, CC revenue growth year over year is 15.4%. Infosys year over year is 21.5%. Wipro year over year is 28.5%. So by and large, Wipro is beating both the organization when it comes to number. It is 28.5% on Wipro's side. Operating margin, as you see, are negative across. Now, what is operating margin? There is a saying in Hindi which goes, Amdani Athanni Kharcha Rupaiya is what defines operating margin. When we say operating margin, it is nothing but you have taken your gross income and you are subtracting your operational expenses out of that to kind of derive your operating margin. Now, what is your operational expenses? Your operational expenses are nothing but the expenses that are incurred due to rent, due to utility bills, or due to the salaries that are being given to the employees, or the investment that is being made in the research and development wing. So it is mainly the expenses that are incurred to keep your business operational on a day-to-day basis. Now, this operating margin is very closely related to LTM attrition. Now, this is one of the headwinds which is making the profits and revenue fall onto the flat line. Now, LTM attrition is 15.3% in TCS, 25.5% in INFOSYS, and 22.7% in WIPRO. When we talk about operating margin, we are trying to judge that how efficiently an organization is controlling its costs or the variable expenses. Now, when it is getting into negative, it means that companies are not able to control a very, very big factor which is now taking place, which is attrition. Attrition, by the way, is not the only cause for negative operating margin, but yes, it is one of the biggest pieces which is contributing to the negative operating margin, which ultimately is leading to the drop in net margin. So net margin is being calculated after the interest and taxes comes into picture, and that is also getting dropped because the control over the cost is not that great. Now, this gives us an indication of where these three organizations stands today. With these numbers into consideration, what we can infer is the CC revenue growth is quite strong, especially when we talk about Infosys and Wipro. They have hit the magical number of being more than 20%. However, the operating margin is negative, and that is where they have to control the costs. It is expected that in the years to come, the attrition would increase. And let me quote an example of one of the organizations named Recognize. On the website, it has been mentioned that researchers estimate a shortage of 85 million tech workers by 2030. Of course, this organization is aiming to solve that problem, but the researchers have already estimated a shortage of 85 million tech workers by 2030, which means that people are going to upskill themselves and would look for better opportunities, causing LTM attrition to either stay constant or become worse for certain organizations, and might also improve for few of the organizations. And hence, it would be interesting to see how the numbers changes. I believe that you learned something new as part of this video. Keep watching and do subscribe to the channel. Thank you.